best friend told me for years her husband was abusive. One night while under the influence, she told me she was actually the one abusing her husband and child. Let's call her Jessica, F25. First things first, she is an ex-best friend now. For exactly the reason in the title. I was around 22 at the time. We met in high school on the basketball team and really hit it off. We were close friends for years, but it was that kind of friendship where we would go to every party together, every new club or bar, stuff like that. We would always go out together. She was 3 years older than me, so by the time she got married and had a kid, I was barely out of high school. I was the only one in our friend group to go off to college, so I only saw her on weekends, and it was again to go out partying most of the time. She would tell me stories about how her husband would cheat on her and abuse their child in front of her. I kept suggesting ways she could leave him and fight for custody, but she would always say she would never leave them. She said she had a plan she was putting together to finally leave him, but it would take her a couple years. So I helped out when I could. I'd take out her and her daughter during the day when I was visiting, then at night, I'd give Mama a much-needed break by letting her break loose. We'd drink and dance all night and forget our troubles. Towards my junior year of college, I decided to get an Airbnb with my college friends. I invited Jessica to join us for the whole weekend and give her a break from her stressful life. We got the Airbnb 6 months in advance and had been planning this trip forever. Jessica said she was so down and this was something that she had been wanting to do for a while. As the time got closer, I found she kept finding excuses for why she might not be able to go. She quit her job a few months prior to the trip because she said it was just too stressful and she didn't have any intention to find a new one. She ended up spending all of her savings and even pulled out her 401k just to pay for living expenses. I told her I'd pay for the entire weekend. I just wanted to give her a chance to relax for the weekend and get away from her situation. Turns out, she never told her husband about the trip. She didn't have any intentions of actually going. I didn't know this until I came by that evening to pick her up for the trip. I drove from college, about an hour drive, to pick her up, then another hour drive to the beach, which is where we were staying. When I get to her house, she comes down the stairs, fighting with her husband. He's yelling saying he never knew of this trip and she's yelling back saying it's fine. She brings her daughter and puts her in the back seat of my car. We drop her off at Jessica's mom's house, which is down the road. Jessica's husband keeps calling while we're driving and questioning why I want her there so bad and why I'm forcing her to go with me. Her husband is saying he had no idea I had planned on taking her and their kid. After dropping off the daughter, we go to the beach and Jessica is complaining the whole way there. Once we get to the Airbnb, she starts to relax. Everyone has their own room. There's a total of 4 of us, me, Jessica, and 2 friends of mine from college. We talk and catch up for a few hours, then we start the main event of the night. My college friends had brought over some shrooms. We had planned for this in advance, so everyone was aware and knew this was in our plans for the evening. Jessica was excited. We play music for a few hours, everyone's dancing and having a good time. My college friends split off to one side of the room and then Jessica and I in another. I'm checking in with her, asking if she needs anything. She puts her phone down and starts talking about her situation. She starts crying and then just bursts out that she lied. She lied about everything. She tells me her husband never cheated on her or abused their child. She has been the one cheating, yelling, and hitting her husband. She said she was so frustrated and disappointed with where she ended up in life that she would take it out on her daughter. She would often yell at her daughter, black out for different periods of time, and when she woke up she would find herself screaming at her daughter while she was sitting against the corner with her hands up. Jessica said her hands would often be in fists. She never remembered hitting her child, but she would see bruises and her daughter would be afraid of her. Now, we were in our peak high on shrooms. I was definitely freaking out on the inside. I felt devastated. Her poor child. I told Jessica she needed to get help immediately. This situation wasn't good for anyone. I was afraid for my friend. Afraid that this is what she became and that she ever had the potential to be this person. We make a plan for when we get back. She would seek a therapist and her daughter would move in with her mom until she got things figured out. I wasn't sure if I wanted to remain friends with Jessica after this trip. Our friendship was starting to weigh heavy on me, but I was worried for her daughter. We said we'd talk more the next day when the shrooms wore down. When I woke up the next day, Jessica was gone. Her husband came to pick her up in the middle of the night without saying goodbye. Jessica didn't text me. I called her and she wouldn't respond. She later texted me saying she wasn't feeling well and that she sent her location to her piece of shit husband. She pretended like that conversation never happened. I spoke to my college friends about it. They knew our friendship was already a bit rocky and they supported whatever decision I made, but either way, they thought Jessica wasn't a great person. I tried to talk to Jessica about our conversation, but she kept saying things like, "What are you talking about? What conversation?" Over the next few days, she became a bit hostile with me and started picking fights. She told me I was just trying to make her look like a bad mom to our friends by making her abandon her child for the weekend. The situation blew up and Jessica started bad-mouthing me to our friends. Our friend group had known each other for around the same time, 8-ish years. So they didn't believe Jessica when she said all those things about me. Jessica's friendship and mine ended abruptly as she blocked my phone number and all social media after. Jessica, her husband, and her daughter moved apartments and I never heard from them again. This was around 6 years ago. Edit. I reached out to Jessica's mom after Jessica blocked my number. She couldn't believe the extents I would go to make Jessica look like a bad mom by helping her abandon her child for the weekend and spread lies that Jessica was actually abusive. So it seemed that Jessica had already told her mom a few lies about how the weekend went. It did take a few weeks for me to reach out to someone after speaking with some of Jessica's cousins and our friend group. No one could believe that she was actually telling the truth about abusing her husband and their child. I called the daughter's school and told them that I believed there were signs of neglect in their home. They had asked for details or observations and I was honest about what I was told and what I had not seen. They said they would get the authorities involved and follow up with a wellness check. I don't know what events followed after that. Now that I am older, I know that I should have approached this situation much differently and I'll never know the further harm I have caused. I cannot take that time back and I wish I could.